Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I'm doing a book haul, and I don't usually buy books full price. I usually buy from either secondhand stores where the books are like $1, or from library sales where the books are like $0.25. But libraries are closed, there's no library sales. Used stores are closed, so there's no more of that either. And apparently I'm slightly more addicted to book buying than I thought I was. I thought that I had good self-control in not buying books other than at cheap places, but apparently I just store up all that energy for book buying and then expend it all in one place. But if I don't have anywhere to expel it, I just end up buying books for full price. And I've done this at a variety of different stores because different stores are open, and I'll explain to you all the reasons I was in these places to buy these books. So to start, we have Kiss Carlo, a novel with a gorgeous cover, and it was a cover buy because my grocery store has books that must have been overstocked because they're obviously not used. They're in excellent condition. This what's it called, dust jacket is gorgeous, and you know, it's all, there's no problems with it, so they must have been overstocked because there's usually several copies of each book in this like big bin, and they're $4 a piece, which is a lot cheaper than like if I were to pick out a particular book that I really wanted and buy it online or something. And this was the first the first book that kind of broke the book buying ban, because it was so beautiful and in such glorious condition. I couldn't let such a beautiful hardcover go by. And I think that it's a romance. It's set in 1949 and it looks like it's got a pretty big cast of characters. Okay, it's an intergenerational story that celebrates the ties that bind and staying true to oneself when all hope seems lost. And it looks like it's got stuff going on in Pennsylvania, New York City, and possibly Italy. So an interesting book, probably. May have bought it mostly for Instagram and because I couldn't stand to not buy books for any longer. On the same trip, I got this, which was also a cover buy, but I was also interested in the concept. It's about a vigilante, and it's been written by all of these different people. And one of them is John McGuire, who wrote both Into the Drowning Deep and Every Heart a Doorway, which I really liked. So it sounds really interesting because I really like vigilantes, and I have no idea what's gonna go down when this many different authors work on one book. Like, it's not a collection of short stories about this person, from what I can tell. It's like they all worked on the same story, so maybe like each one took a chapter or each one took a character, I don't know. But it should be really interesting, and it's a bright purple cover. Then I started buying books from our local indie bookstore called The Bookworm, and this started because, for one, I think my library only had a physical copy of this, The Magnolia Sword by Shea Thomas, and I wanted to read it sooner than libraries are probably going to open, so I ordered it. And also because I was feeling like I wanted to support indie bookstores right now, because small businesses are having a lot of problems because they can't, like, they don't have the background capital to absorb the recession and the fact that nobody can buy anything. And I also have been wanting to accumulate more pink books. Unfortunately, it does not have a pink spine, so once I've read it, it's gonna have to go with my black book collection rather than my pink book collection, but still a very pretty cover. And I also wanted to support more authors of color with actually buying books and not only reading and recommending them from the library. And this was recommended by several people, but specifically I tipped over the edge to actually buying it when Kara from Wild Book Garden recommended it, because we have a lot of similar tastes and she enjoyed it quite a bit, and I am crazy for Mulan. So this was a clear choice of what was a good idea to buy. So this indie bookstore has a system where you can buy online and then like go and pick it up. So that's what I did. I also got Soulless. I forgot I got this because I already put it on my bookshelf, but I got this at the same time with that order, and This is the first of the Parasol Protectorate series, and I really wanted to reread it because I enjoy the characters so much. And the Milan story was full price, but this one was used, and so it was like $4. I talked about that series in pretty great length back in January when I read it. I'll link that if you are interested in what's up with that series. It's very good. Unfortunately, that bookstore actually decided to close down permanently because even with the few people doing these online orders and pickups, they still couldn't make it through and pay all their employees and things, so they decided to have a going out of business sale, which I'm used to going out of business sales being like 50 to 70% off. This was only 30% off, so I probably wouldn't have gone if I had known that they were only 30% off, because it was so hot in that store and there were quite a few people in there, and like we were all wearing masks, but it might not have. I went in with a great big bag because I expected it to be like a library sale where I'd get a ton for really cheap, but I only ended up getting 4 books then because they were about 30% off, $7, whatever that adds up to. And they didn't really have anything that I was looking to add to my collection, so I just went with things that I found there, and I found 4 pink spine books, which I'm trying to build up a pink spine books shelf. I think I'm going to take all these that I've got and rework this shelf so that it has more pink spines in it, because I love pink spines. And specifically, this is one by Nora Roberts, who is a go-to romance author. I have not disliked anything by her that I've read, and this one was a little cheaper than others. It was 30% off, $4. I haven't read this particular one yet, but I expect that it's quite good. Then in the used romance section, I found Small Wonders by Marilynn Pappano, and this is about a guy coming back to a small town after abandoning his girlfriend and her daughter. I think it's a daughter. Anyway, she was a single mom, and he went off and got into like criminal stuff, but now he's back and wants to be a good guy now. And it sounded interesting. It's pink all over. It's got a really cute this little illustration going on, and it's a single parent oriented romance, which I have talked about a few times now. I enjoy very much. Then we have 3 editions of Jane Austen's works, and I've seen other people, specifically especially Reading with Mo, who have pink editions of Jane Austen's works, and I have been wanting them very much ever since I saw that. And so they are different colors on the, what's it called, the cover part as opposed to the spine, which is really pretty. I especially like this one. I really like that shade of blue. I love Jane Austen. All of these books are free if you get them from like Gettysburg Project or whatever, not Gettysburg, Gutenberg. Completely different things. Gutenberg Project, because they're in the public domain, but the thing about being in the public domain is people keep remaking pretty editions of them. I especially like these 3. I think there were only 3 that they had, but I especially like Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Persuasion. I'm actually thinking about writing a retelling of Persuasion. I had this idea because Naomi, I think, from Naomi's Bookshelves, was talking about rereading some Jane Austen retellings for Jane Austen July, and then I was thinking I could do a version of Persuasion because I really like that book. Weirdly, it's a really weird romance where you don't get to actually see the romance, you see the aftermath, because it's a story about this Navy captain coming back after he's been very successful in a war, I don't remember which one, and gotten really rich and everything, to his hometown where his ex-girlfriend lives, and they never got married because her aunt told her to reject him because he was poor at the time. And so it's all about him trying to not care about her and find somebody else to marry because he's ready to marry now, because he's still mad that she rejected him because he was poor. But I just really like it for some reason. I find it really comforting and cozy. I don't really know why, but it's very pleasant and I like it. And I might be slightly over enthusiastic about pink things. Okay, then we have somewhat a different type of book. This was recommended by my psychiatrist because I told him I wasn't having much luck with multiple counselors that I was trying out. So he recommended I research cognitive behavioral therapy on my own, because basically the only things I was getting from the counselors I was going to was they were spitting out cognitive behavioral therapy truisms at me and weren't actually like addressing my issues specifically. So I might as well just read a generalized book about them. I'm not going to those counselors anymore, by the way, don't worry. But this is supposed to be all about reworking your brain patterns so that they send you less negative signals. Because when you have depression or anxiety, your brain gets used to working a certain way and it makes itself worse and worse. Whereas because it's partially the chemical problem and it's also partially your brain forms pathways based on what it's done in the past, and you need to like break those patterns before you can like think of things in a positive light. And I haven't started it yet, and I don't have an excuse for that, but I'll read it sometime. The next thing was, again, my library not having anything but print copies of books I wanted, so I got together an order that added up to enough I could get free shipping from Target, because I was trying to avoid Amazon. And while Target is not indie, I really appreciate some of the ways they've reacted to some other issues. I don't know if they're totally unproblematic, but I know they're better than Amazon. So the reason I started this Target order was to get, for one, this, which is Fairy Tales and Space Dreams by Jasmine, Shea, Townsend. And I don't remember who recommended this to me, but it was in one of the groups of recommendations for Black authors. And this is, it's a very thin book. It is 6 short stories, 3 are fairy tale retellings, and 3 are sci-fi short stories. And so the first one is about a Black Snow White, just basically retells the classic fairy tale but with a few twists. And I've actually started this one already, so I've read that one and liked it a lot. The next one is about a little mermaid who falls in love with a star instead of a land person. And just generally look at this cover. This is a glorious cover. First of all, my favorite colors are pink, blue, and purple, and also it's a lady with big hair and a unicorn horn coming out of her forehead. So I was very excited about that. Also, it's indie published, and I love supporting indie authors. Then the one that my library did have, but only in print copy, was An Unkindness Ghost by River Solomon. And this one everybody has been recommending because it is by a Black author who is non-binary. And River Solomon tends to also write non-binary and trans characters, and now is a good time to encourage and support trans and non-binary people extra, because they have been attacked extra lately. Also because I am wanting to read a bunch of different letters from the LGBTQIAP community. And so I've got one that's ace and gay, and I've got several lesbian reads, and so now I have something by a non-binary author as well, so I can have a nice well-rounded pride reading session. And I'm also planning on reading the Magnolia Sword book fairly soon, so this is a book haul that will have the books actually being reviewed on the channel a lot closer to the filming of the book haul than usual. And then to round out that order so I could get free shipping, I ordered Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and I'm gonna slot it right up there next to Uprooted. I'm very excited to rework my bookshelves for a bunch of these. And I really, really love this. And I still have the library copy, which is a hardback and is significantly bigger because they artificially inflate the size of hardcovers. It irritates me very much because it makes it heavy and hard to read. But they think you'll be willing to spend more money on it if it's bigger. And this has some shininess on it, and it's just a beautiful color, this ice blue. I also did another order from Target because I had to buy a new phone because mine broke. So with the phone price, it already surpassed the amount of money for shipping for free. So I decided to just add on some kind of cheap books to that. So I have coming in the mail, was supposed to arrive yesterday, hasn't arrived yet, Tempest by Beverly Jenkins, Furthermore by Tahera Mafi, and Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. And I've read Furthermore and Tempest. I wasn't sure about reading Rebel. I had seen Rebel recommended by some people before, but I didn't really want to read a romance set during a war because I really hate real life war stories. I like fantasy war stories, but war in like the real world, I don't like reading about that. But since I love a lot of Beverly Jenkins stuff so much, I decided that it would be worth getting. So those are the books I've bought recently. I have no self-control. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!